She cried in her sleep, whispering his name. That's how I found out. It was around 2:30 a.m. When I first heard it, muffled, broken, like a ghost slipping through the cracks of our bedroom walls. I was awake, staring at the ceiling, counting the rhythm of the fan blades above us. Insomnia had become a quiet companion of mine over the years, but that night, something else stirred me before I even knew why. She shifted beside me, a soft whimper, then another. Her voice cracked as she exhaled a single word I didn't recognize. Ethan. Stopped the breath in my lungs. Not Mike, not love, not some dream-mumbled nonsense. A name I didn't know, spoken with such aching tenderness that I couldn't unhear it. She rolled onto her side, back facing me. A faint sheen of sweat clung to her neck. I watched her chest rise and fall slowly, one arm tangled in the sheets. I didn't move. I didn't say anything. I just lay there, staring at her like she was a stranger who'd wandered into my life by accident. The next morning, I didn't mention it. Not because I was afraid, but because I didn't know how to. We ate breakfast like any other day. She made toast. I poured the coffee. The kitchen buzzed with the low hum of the refrigerator and the tapping of her phone. She scrolled through emails, replied to a couple with that same focused look she always wore. Her wedding ring caught the light when she reached for her mug. "You slept okay?" I asked casually. "Yeah," she said, not looking up. "Why?" I shrugged. "Just heard you mumble something." She smiled, half laughing. "Probably one of those weird stress dreams again." "Maybe." She kissed me on the cheek before heading out to work. Same way she always did. But I didn't feel the same after the door clicked shut behind her. The house felt quieter, like it knew something I didn't. That day I couldn't focus on anything. I left work early under the excuse of a migraine. I sat on the edge of our bed for a while, just staring at her side of it. The faintest dent in the pillow where her head had rested. The nightstand drawer slightly ajar, a corner of a journal peeking out. I never read her journal. It was an unspoken rule. I didn't touch it. Not yet. Instead, I checked her closet, her drawers, her side of the bathroom sink. Everything was normal, frustratingly, numbly normal. That night, I watched her more closely. Her laughter at dinner, the way she asked about my day, the softness of her hand as she reached for mine during a movie. Nothing seemed out of place. And yet, everything was. At around midnight, she drifted to sleep beside me. I stayed awake again, eyes fixed on the darkened ceiling. At 2:14 a.m. It happened again. "Ethan, please." She whimpered like a child, clutched the pillow tighter, then silence. But this time, I whispered something back. "Who is Ethan?" She didn't answer, still asleep, lost somewhere I couldn't follow. And that was the moment I realized this wasn't just a dream. This was a window, and I was about to step through it. I didn't go to work the next day. I told myself it was because of the weather. Gray skies, sleeting rain, the kind that soaks into your skin and never leaves. But really, I just couldn't face people. Not with this quiet storm rolling through my chest. Instead, I stayed home. I followed her morning routine like a ghost. She showered, dressed, kissed me on the forehead like she always did. "You're taking a sick day?" she asked, grabbing her keys. "Yeah, migraine's still there." She nodded. "Get some rest. Don't just doom scroll all day." Then she left. The moment the door closed, I went straight for the nightstand. The journal was small, black leather, no lock, no name. I hesitated. For a long moment, I just held it in my hands, feeling its weight, her weight. Then I opened it. The entries were dated sporadically. She didn't write every day. Some were short, grocery lists, notes to herself. But others were confessions. Started small, descriptions of feeling disconnected, tired, like a ghost in her own skin. I knew those feelings. We'd talked about them before. But 3 weeks ago, the tone shifted. Saw him again today. I wasn't going to. I promised myself I wouldn't. But there he was, waiting. God, I'm so weak. My throat went dry. My hands clenched around the edges of the page. She didn't use his name yet, but she described his smile, the way he listened, how she felt seen, wanted, alive. Then came the name, bold, unashamed, scrawled in black ink like it had lived in her hand for years. Ethan. The name echoed like thunder in my skull. She didn't go into detail, not at first, but her words were drenched in guilt and longing. She hated herself for seeing him, but she kept going back. We talked for hours in his car, just talking, I swear. But the way he looked at me, I felt 25 again. Next page. I told him I couldn't do this. He didn't argue. He just kissed my forehead and said, "When you're ready." I stopped reading, couldn't breathe. I closed the journal and set it back exactly where I found it. Then I sat on the edge of the bed again, staring at the floor for what felt like hours. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was truth. It wasn't physical. Not yet. At least I didn't think so. But she was already his in the ways that mattered most. And she was slipping further every night. That evening, I made dinner like nothing was wrong. She laughed at a stupid joke I made about overcooked pasta. She kissed me goodnight like she always did. And when she fell asleep, I stared at the ceiling again. Only this time, I didn't wait for her to speak. I whispered to the dark, "How long have you been in love with him?" She didn't answer, but I heard it in her breathing. A shift, a pause, a single shuddering breath, and silence. That silence told me everything I needed to know. I started watching her differently, not obsessively, not with anger, but with the kind of quiet, surgical attention a man gives when he knows something sacred is bleeding out and he has no tools to stop it. I watched her hands when she texted, the curve of her smile when she answered calls. I listened for softness in her voice that didn't belong to me anymore. I became an archaeologist of my own marriage, digging through the ruins for signs of what we were, or what she was becoming. It was a Wednesday evening when the next crack showed. We were watching a documentary, something about ocean wrecks, ancient ships swallowed whole by time. She loved the sea, used to say it calmed her, made her feel small in a good way. Her phone buzzed once, just once, but her body flinched. She picked it up, screen tilted away from me. Her thumbs moved quickly. Then she placed it face down on the couch cushion between us. "Work?" I asked. "MHM. One of the interns keeps messing up the onboarding files. Late hour for admin." She didn't look at me, just shrugged and kept her eyes on the TV. But I wasn't watching the wreckage on screen anymore. I was watching hers. That night, when she fell asleep, I took her phone from the nightstand. I didn't unlock it. Not yet. Just held it. I knew her passcode. Of course I did. For years of marriage teaches you all the casual things that become sacred later. I put it down. Not out of nobility, out of dread. Because once you cross that line, there's no uncrossing it. No pretending you didn't see the messages. No unreading the secrets. The next morning, I watched her leave again. Same coat, same hair bun, same kiss on the cheek. But there was a flicker in her eyes, like she knew something I didn't, or maybe she just thought I didn't. I went to my computer, opened the shared family cloud account we barely used. One of those quiet background tools that syncs everything unless you tell it not to. I clicked through until I found what I wasn't even sure I was looking for. A calendar invite. Title E. Next week. No location. Just a heart emoji. No attached notes. But it was synced from her account. She had added it. Quietly. Privately. A personal meeting on a shared cloud. I stared at that tiny red heart like it was a pin in a grenade. Then I clicked further. Photos. Hundreds of them. Most innocent. Screenshots. Work receipts. A few selfies she probably never meant to back up. But one folder had a name I hadn't seen before. Archive. I opened it. They weren't explicit. Not in the way people imagine when they think of affairs. No nudes. No hotel rooms. But they were worse. A photo of her coffee cup on a dashboard I didn't recognize. A blurry picture of a bookstore shelf with a caption. Thought of you. A mirror selfie, her smile softer than I'd seen in months. Hair down, the kind of photo you send someone not because they asked, but because you want them to remember how you looked that day. And there he was. One photo, taken from behind. They were sitting on a bench at night, city lights glowing behind them, his hand on her knee, her head tilted toward his shoulder. Not kissing, just existing. It was the intimacy that broke me, the comfort, the trust in that posture, the unspoken, undeniable us in that photo. I closed the laptop slowly, like shutting a casket. There was no going back now. She had someone else's gravity around her, and I was the moon, slowly drifting out of orbit. She came home humming, not loudly, just a soft, unconscious melody under her breath, the kind of sound people make when they think no one's listening. I was at the kitchen counter, pretending to read the news on my tablet. "Hey," she said, slipping her shoes off. "Smells like garlic. Pasta night," I replied. "Figured you'd be hungry. Starving." She walked past me, brushing her fingers across my back as she went. A gentle touch, the kind that once meant everything. I didn't flinch, just watched her out of the corner of my eye as she moved around the kitchen like nothing was different. Like our house wasn't full of ghosts. Like she hadn't left a piece of herself on a bench with someone named Ethan. At dinner, she talked about a client she hated. Something about a marketing rollout gone wrong. I nodded in the right places, laughed when I was supposed to, played the part of the husband she remembered. But I watched her eyes more than her lips. They didn't glow when she talked about work. They used to, once. Now they glowed when she checked her phone between bites. She tried to be discreet, glanced down only when she thought I was wiping my mouth or reaching for wine. But her pupils changed. A tiny dilation each time, a flicker of life. After dinner, she said she was tired. "Long day. Mind if I crash early?" "Of course not," I said. "I'll clean up." She kissed me, a soft, mechanical kiss, like mailing a letter you don't care if someone reads. I heard the bedroom door close. I waited. 15 minutes later, I padded down the hall, quiet as fog. She was asleep, or pretending. Her breathing was steady. Her phone lay on the nightstand, screen down. I stared at it for a long moment. My hands shook when I picked it up. Passcode. Same as always. The home screen was harmless. Calendar. Weather. A new group chat from work. I opened messages. Nothing unusual. Then I saw it. Ethan. A contact name, all caps. No emoji. No profile photo. Just the name. I tapped it. It opened a thread. Sparse. Nothing older than a few days. She must have deleted the earlier ones. But not these. Monday, 3:42 p.m. Her. Thinking about that bookstore. Him. I still have that poetry book you showed me. The one about rivers. Her. Bring it next time. I want to hear you read it. Tuesday, 11:18 a.m. Him. Missed you today. Her. It was hard to stay away. Wednesday, 9:02 p.m. Just an hour before she got home. Her. Your voice is still in my ears. Him. Your silence is in mine. That one stopped me. It didn't sound like flirtation. It sounded like mourning. Like two people grieving something they couldn't have. Or shouldn't. I placed the phone back gently. Screen down. Then I walked into the bathroom, locked the door, and sat on the edge of the tub with my head in my hands. I didn't cry. Not then. But I felt something tear inside me. Not rage. Not betrayal. Something worse. I felt the dull, crushing ache of being second choice. Of being the safe harbor after she'd sailed through someone else's storm. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay beside her, listening to her breath, wondering whose name she'd whisper tonight. The next morning, she sang in the shower. It wasn't even a song I recognized. Just a soft, airy melody. Notes with no lyrics, floating through the steam like they belonged to someone else's life. I sat on the edge of the bed, listening. It broke my heart. Not because it was beautiful, but because I hadn't heard her sing in months. And she wasn't singing for me. She came out wrapped in a towel, hair dripping, cheeks flushed. "You okay?" she asked, seeing me sitting there. "Yeah." I lied. Just slow to start today. She kissed my forehead. Coffee's already brewing. She left the room. I didn't move. I wanted to ask her then. Who is he, really? What do you feel when you see him? When you come home to me, do you taste his name in your mouth? But I said nothing. Again. Because silence was easier than the sound of something breaking. That afternoon, I went to her favorite cafe. The one with the chipped blue mugs and windows that fogged in the winter. She used to meet friends there. But lately, she'd stopped mentioning it. I ordered black coffee and sat near the corner, where I had a view of the parking lot. I waited and waited. 3 hours passed. She didn't come, but someone else did. A tall man, maybe mid-30s, neat hair, dark coat, confident but quiet. He ordered something to go, looked at his phone once, then left. I don't know why I followed him, but I did. I kept my distance, just a few car lengths, enough not to be noticed. He drove a gray Honda, clean, practical. He parked on a side street near the bookstore she loved. Got out, walked inside. I didn't follow him in. I just waited. 20 minutes later, she appeared. My wife, walking down the sidewalk toward the store, scarf around her neck, eyes scanning the street. She didn't look rushed or guilty. She looked eager. When she saw him through the window, she smiled. Not a polite smile, not a friendly smile. The kind of smile you give someone who lives inside your daydreams. She went inside. I sat there in my car, hands gripping the wheel, knuckles white. I don't know how long I waited. 10 minutes, 30, long enough. When she finally came out, they weren't touching. No holding hands, no goodbye kiss, but their bodies moved like they'd practiced this dance before. He walked her to her car. She touched his arm before she got in. He stood there watching her drive away, and I watched him. Watched the man who had found the version of her that used to be mine. That evening, she came home with a small book in her bag. Poetry collection. About rivers. Found it used, she said casually, placing it on the table. Made me think of you, and for the first time in our marriage, I smiled at a lie I already knew. Because now I wasn't just watching her. I was watching us unravel, thread by beautiful thread. I started talking to myself. Not out loud, just internally, constantly, like my thoughts had been split in two. One voice trying to make sense of it all, the other trying to stop me from falling apart. She loves you. She's just confused. No, she's already left. You're just the last to know. I walked through our house like it was a museum of what used to be. The framed photo of us at the lake. The wine stain on the carpet from that night with her sister. The dent in the hallway where she dropped her suitcase during our only real fight. Every object felt like a warning I hadn't seen in time. On Saturday, we were invited to a dinner party. Friends of hers. People I barely knew. You still want to go? She asked. I nodded. Yeah, let's go. She smiled, almost surprised. Okay, I'll wear the red dress. You always liked that one. I did, and I hated that I still did. That night, I watched her laugh across the room with people who thought our life was picture perfect. She drank wine, touched my arm at the right moments, told stories like she hadn't practiced them in front of a mirror. But I watched closely. The flicker of her eyes when her phone buzzed in her clutch. The delay in her smile. The way she leaned into me just a little too hard, like overcompensating. We left around 11. In the car, she leaned her head against the window. I love nights like this, she murmured. I said nothing, just drove. When we got home, she went upstairs first. I stayed behind in the kitchen, pouring a drink I didn't want. Her phone was still in her purse. I shouldn't have looked again, but I did. Only one new message. Ethan, you looked beautiful tonight, even from across the street. That was it. I stared at the words, hands cold, heart numb. He was there, watching, waiting, from the outside. He hadn't disappeared. He was a ghost with skin, a shadow she kept inviting in. I placed the phone back, careful, deliberate. Then I went upstairs, crawled into bed beside her. She stirred, half asleep. Everything okay? She mumbled. Yeah, I said, lying to her for the first time. Just tired. I watched her drift back into sleep. And for the first time, I didn't wonder if she would whisper his name. I wondered if I wanted her to, because silence was starting to hurt more than the truth ever could. Sunday morning came with golden light, the kind that made the kitchen look warmer than it was. She made pancakes, hummed again, wore my hoodie like she always used to in the early days. I figured we could have a slow morning, she said, flipping a pancake. Just us. Just us. I smiled, nodded, pretended. We ate on the back porch. Birds sang like nothing was wrong. Her foot brushed against mine under the table. My hands felt too big, too foreign wrapped around the coffee mug. She talked about maybe taking a trip. Just the two of us. Something spontaneous. Something to reset. Maybe a cabin, she said. Somewhere quiet. Quiet. I wanted to laugh, because silence was already screaming between us. I looked at her and tried to memorize the shape of her face. The way the light caught her lashes. The curve of her lips when she spoke about nothing at all. I wanted to remember her this way, before the end. Later that night, I sat in my office, the door barely closed, watching the cursor blink on a blank email. To Ethan. Yes, I had his email. Found it once on a shared event page she forgot to log out of. I never used it. Not until now. Subject, we should talk. But I didn't type anything. Because what do you say to the man who has your wife's heart? Do you ask him to give it back? Do you ask if he's worth it? Do you ask what she looks like when she says your name? Instead, I deleted the draft, closed the laptop, sat in the dark until my legs went numb. She came to the door, knocked gently. You okay in there? Yeah, just tired. Come to bed soon. I will. She lingered, opened the door halfway. I miss you sometimes, she said, her voice cracked. Even when you're right here. I looked at her. I miss you too. She walked away, and I felt something inside me sink like a stone. It wasn't just me losing her. It was her losing herself. And I didn't know which of us I should be trying to save. That night, I lay beside her without touching her. Her breathing was soft, even. I whispered, Ethan. No reaction, so I whispered it again. And this time, her body flinched. Just a small, involuntary twitch in her shoulder. But it was enough. She heard it. She felt it. She knew. And still, she didn't open her eyes. The confrontation wasn't loud. Came on a Tuesday. A slow, gray-skied afternoon where the rain didn't pour but hovered. Drizzling just enough to feel like the world was holding its breath. She was folding laundry. I was sitting on the edge of the bed. Who is he? I asked. No build-up. No warning, just the question dropped like a stone into still water. She didn't freeze, didn't gasp. She folded one more shirt, neatly, precisely, then placed it on the pile. You know his name. Her voice was calm, not cold, not angry, just exhausted. How long? I asked. She sat down across from me, her hands resting in her lap. Since March, but it didn't start until summer. And even then, it wasn't like that. Not at first. I laughed hollow and small. Not like what? Not physical. I looked at her. But real. She nodded. Eyes glassy. I didn't mean to, she whispered. I shook my head. You don't fall in love by accident. She didn't argue. The silence stretched between us, thick and wet with all the things we'd never said. Why him? I asked. She looked down at her hands. He saw me, not the version I show the world. Not the wife, not the worker, not the predictable one. Just me. And when I talked, he listened like it mattered. I listened. She met my eyes, and that was the cruelest part, because I believed her when she said, I know you did. I stood up, walked to the window. The rain traced slow, crooked lines down the glass. Are you still in love with him? She didn't answer right away, and that hesitation was everything. I don't know what I feel anymore, she said. But you feel something. She nodded. I turned to face her. Do you love me? Tears welled in her eyes. Yes, but maybe not in the way you deserve. And that broke me. Not the betrayal, not even the love she gave to someone else, but the quiet confession that the love she gave me wasn't enough. We didn't scream. We didn't fight. We just sat in a room filled with clean laundry and dirty truths. I didn't ask her to choose, because I already knew. That night, we slept in the same bed, back to back, like strangers sharing a memory neither of us could name. The days that followed felt like aftershocks. Small, quiet quakes in every room. Nothing fell off the shelves, but everything shifted. We stopped pretending. The morning coffee came without conversation. The dinners turned to leftovers, eaten silently at opposite ends of the couch. But we were still there, sharing space, sharing air, like co-authors stuck on the final chapter, neither willing to write the last line. Then one night, a week after the conversation, she came home late, later than usual. She didn't offer an excuse. I didn't ask for one, but she stood in the doorway of the bedroom longer than usual, like waiting for permission to enter her own life. "I didn't see him," she said finally. "Not tonight." "Okay," I replied, "but I wanted to." I nodded. She sat down on the bed, hands clasped in her lap. "Do you hate me yet?" "No." "Why not?" "Because I still remember the girl who made me laugh so hard I cried. The woman who sat on a beach with me until sunrise. The person who once looked at me like I was the only thing keeping her breathing." She swallowed hard. "I miss her." "So do I." She lay down facing the wall. I sat in the armchair by the window, watching the streetlights flicker through the blinds. She whispered, "I think I lost myself." I whispered back, "I think I lost you first." The next morning, I found an envelope on my desk, my name written in her handwriting. Inside, a single photograph. The two of us from years ago, beach wind in our hair, her eyes squinting from sunlight and laughter, my arm around her waist. No makeup, no performance, just us. Underneath, she had written, "Don't forget this version of me." No letter, no explanation, just that. That night, she didn't come home. No message, no call, just the echo of her footsteps, still living in the floorboards. And I didn't chase her, because some stories end not with a bang or a betrayal, but with a quiet door closing, and a man finally letting go. It's been 4 months. The house is quieter now, not in a haunting way, just still, the kind of stillness you grow into when you stop waiting for footsteps that aren't coming back. I boxed up her things slowly, not in anger, not all at once, just piece by piece as I was ready. The red dress went last. Some nights I still set out 2 mugs by accident. Old habits don't vanish. They fade like fog, slow, reluctant, but certain. I never tried to contact her, and she never reached out to me. That was the unspoken agreement, the last thing we shared. She didn't leave with a scream or a suitcase, just a memory and a folded note inside a photograph. And I've kept it, not because I'm holding on, but because that version of her, the one in the sun with wind in her hair, she existed. And I loved her. Sometimes I go to the bookstore, the one near the cafe. I buy poetry I don't read right away. I just let it sit on the nightstand where her journal used to be. A reminder that even stories that hurt can be beautiful. That loving someone doesn't always mean keeping them. One afternoon I saw them, Ethan and her, walking out of that same cafe. She looked lighter, freer. He had his hand on her back, protective, gentle. They didn't see me. I didn't look away. I thought I'd feel rage, but I didn't. I just felt something settle inside me, like dust after a long storm. Maybe that's closure, or maybe it's just peace wearing a disguise. Either way, I walked home slowly, took the long route, let the wind press against my face, and for the first time in months, I breathed without breaking, because some love stories aren't meant to last. They're meant to teach, and I had finally learned how to let her go.